He saved her, but she was forced to marry him after being found in his cabin. The storm had come without warning. The sky had been deceptively calm just hours before, painted in soft twilight blues and golds as the sun dipped behind the mountains. Evelyn Hart had taken her father's mare out for a brisk ride before supper. Nothing reckless, just a loop around the northern pastures, enough to clear her thoughts from the endless wedding talk at home. By the time she realized the clouds were rolling in, it was too late. The wind screamed down from the ridges, carrying bitter snow that stung her eyes and numbed her fingers even through her gloves. The mare panicked, rearing at invisible shapes in the storm, and Evelyn struggled to hold on. She'd grown up on horseback, but even she couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. She hadn't even noticed the ravine until the mare's front hoof slipped near the edge. A terrified whinny, a violent jolt, and Evelyn hit the ground hard. The next thing she remembered was pain, cold, and the creeping, bone-deep certainty that she wasn't going to make it home. Cole Thatcher wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the ridge that night. He'd spent the better part of the week cutting wood and trapping for pelts, minding his own business far from town. People in Miller's Crossing knew his name, though rarely in a friendly tone. He was a man with no family, no polite manners, and a past no one asked about because no one wanted to hear the answer. His cabin sat alone at the edge of the timberline, a single-room shelter he'd built with his own hands. It wasn't much, but it kept him alive, and more importantly, it kept him away from people. Until he found her. At first, he thought it was just another fallen branch half buried in the snowdrift. But then he saw the dark fabric, the faint rise and fall of breath, and the blood-stained snow beneath her head. Cole swore under his breath and crouched beside her, brushing the ice from her lashes. A girl. No, a young woman. Fine coat, soft gloves, delicate features pale with cold. Damn it all. He checked her pulse. Weak, but there. He hesitated only a moment before gathering her into his arms. She was light, frighteningly cold, and shivering in a way that made him move faster. Back at his cabin, Cole stoked the fire high, wrapped her in every blanket he owned, and forced warm broth between her lips. She didn't stir that night, nor the next day, save for a few whispered moans as fever set in. Cole sat by the fire, watching her fight for breath, wondering just what kind of trouble he'd inherited. When Evelyn woke, she didn't know where she was. The first thing she noticed was warmth, a roaring fire, heavy quilts, the smell of wood smoke and something faintly wild. Her head pounded when she tried to move, but a quiet, rough voice stopped her. "You're awake." She turned her head toward the sound. The man sitting by the fire was broad-shouldered, his shirt sleeves rolled to the elbow, a day's worth of stubble darkening his jaw. His hair was dark and unkempt, and his eyes, steady, gray, unreadable, were fixed on her with a mix of caution and relief. Where am I?" she rasped. "My cabin. Found you half dead in the snow 2 nights ago," he said. "Storm's still bad. You're safer here till it clears." Evelyn blinked, trying to piece together the memory. The ride, the fall, the cold. "Your horse," he guessed. She swallowed hard. "I don't know." He nodded once, neither comforting nor cruel. Just stating the truth neither of them could change. "You should rest," he said finally, turning back to the fire. Evelyn wanted to ask a dozen questions. Who he was, how far from town they were, if anyone knew she was alive, but her body was heavy, and the fire's warmth pulled her back under like a tide. She didn't know then how dangerous appearances could be. When the storm broke 3 days later, Cole saddled his mule and prepared to escort her back to Miller's Crossing. Evelyn was still weak, but she insisted she could ride. The journey was slow, quiet, and tense, 2 strangers bound only by an accident of fate. But fate had a cruel sense of timing. By the time they reached town, gossip had already done its work. Evelyn Hart, daughter of one of the valley's most prominent ranchers, had been missing for 3 days. To return in the company of a man like Cole Thatcher, alone, disheveled, emerging from the wilderness together, was scandal enough to light every porch lantern and whisper down every street. Her father's face had gone from relief to outrage in a heartbeat. The town preacher was summoned. The sheriff too. Words like compromise, and ruin, and no other choice, rang in her ears as if someone else were living her life for her. And before Evelyn had even changed out of her torn riding dress, a decision was made. To save her reputation, she would marry the man who had saved her life.